Merry Christmas, Dad. As they say in It's a Wonderful Life, the richest man is the one with the most friends. As this video is about to show you, you're the richest man in the world. You have touched so many lives, and we love you.
Every time a bell rings, an angel gets its wings. Oh.
Yeah.
That's the singer outlaw right there.
Hey, Jamie.
Hey, Jamie.
Hey, Jamie. I had a lot of fun with you when I was raising you.
Merry Christmas!
Hey, Uncle David.
We miss you.
Not the same this year without you here. We love you. I was talking to a friend today that remembered you and was praying for you and said, I remember as a child that you would cut a backflip with a beer in your hand and not spill a drop. Anyway, we love you. We miss the fact that you're not here. And you have a Merry Christmas, and next year will be even better because you'll be with us.
And we love you.
Love you.
We're on. Yes.
Well, I've been asked by Angie to see if I could tell you to behave over Christmas, that you have a good one, and don't let me cry, because I might, because I want you to have a good Christmas and remember all the fun we had at Sullivan's Isle. God bless you, darling. Bye.
Oh, this is all the stuff that was there. That's what Beverly was saying.
Yep.
So is this for your mama?
Looking, you know.
Are we ready?
Now the one thing about I don't ever want to see it, if that's okay with you.
Right.
Because it's about memories, and I would prefer to sort of remember a younger version or whatever.
Right.
I don't know. And I assume that Angie knows how to clip a video, right?
Well,
Right,
yeah,
because
the
we sort of
bad
ramble.
stuff,
We're
right?
sort of rambling a little.
Yeah,
bit.
you can.
Okay.
You can ramble and take it off. Well, hello, golden friends. You remember what that means? Merry Christmas, David and Sissy. I wanted to just say that we went over and looked at the David and Sissy. Beverly couldn't find it, so I had to tell her.
I knew where it was. I knew where it was.
So anyway, we just thought that we would wish you a real happy Christmas, and wanted to tell some bad stories about the ones that I introduced. I'm the famous one. At least they're still married, unlike some of us. In the January wedding day.
And that's what we were trying to remember. It was January the 5th, and we weren't sure if it was 1963 or 64, because we were a year ahead of David.
Right.
And I never quite understood why. But anyway, we were, because we were 7th grade, and I guess he was still 6th. And it was while he was away at school on vacation, or before he went away to school.
I think they got married before, because he was going away to school. I think you are right. Yeah.
Anyway, as you can tell, anything we say may or may not be true. But we're just saying it how we remember it. And I can remember the first most amazing thing to me about David was that he is and was the most natural of any person. I mean, he had more natural ability. If he wanted to learn to play the guitar, he didn't take lessons. He just could pick it up. If he wanted to learn to be a gymnast, he just did it. You know, he had more inborn natural ability, more rhythm, more just the right stuff than almost anybody I've ever known. Agree?
I agree. And
he used to do it all.
Oh yeah.
You know, he would jump and tumble and play that music and whatever else.
And the band.
Yeah. Remember that band they had?
I don't remember who was the drummer. You remember?
I remember we had a band. Remember we were like the Beatles and each of us had a role. It was bad. It was bad.
Well, as you can tell, we're just rambling.
Well, yeah, we are rambling a little bit.
We are rambling lots. So, but I wanted to say that maybe you might like to remember this too. I've been married 3 times. Can you believe it? Hank once.
You think?
I think that was my first husband. Charlie. I know I remember that one.
I remember that.
Okay. But the 3rd time is the charm because I still got married on your anniversary, January 5th. So we still have the same anniversary. Maybe I'll take it to the level that you guys have. The most wonderful marriage, the one that was made in heaven years ago in the 7th grade. So,
Right.
okay.
So we're wishing you the very best Christmas. We wish that you were here because we could give you a hug because you're one of the best huggers I personally know. Right? Don't you think? I mean, David, when he gives you a hug, it's a hug. It's like when you dance with him. And he's such a determined leader. You know?
Right.
He's a good dancer, good hugger. So this time next year, we'll be doing it in person. Okay?
Oh, and one more thing. Do you remember when we used to come here to go to the parties in the basement?
A lot. We would
Yeah.
have a little routine. We would have a party on Friday night. Then remember we would go bowling Saturdays.
Oh,
Always
I do
went bowling on
remember.
King Street, and then we would go to the movies, and then we would have another party. We had a lot of parties. Here at David's, and then over at Dee's.
Oh, right.
Right.
And all the red lights. You remember we always had to have a light on, and we wanted it dark so we could smooch. I don't think we did anything more than just smooch. But we had a red light, and we'd always put a little towel or
We'd get it as dark
something,
as we
yeah, over the top of it.
Or the boys would. The
Oh,
boys
yeah.
would. But now this was something the girls would do. If you can look here in my hand, I found these in a scrapbook. And this used to be one of our favorite things to do in the 7th and 8th grade. We would go up to a boy and we would grab this off the back of his shirt. And some of them you can see we weren't very kind because it probably took a little bit of the shirt with it. But we were very proud of our collections of these. And what did you said we used to?
I think what we used to do is we took them and we tied them on the circle pins. Don't you remember? Because we would see how many we could get off of the shirt. And then we would wear this tacky, awful red lipstick and smooch all when we do the bear hug dance down in the basement and smooch all over the collars of the boys' shirts. So their mothers would probably hate us.
Oh, right, for lots of reasons. Here, those are 2 of them.
Right.
But anyway, this was a scene of lots of good memories.
Merry Christmas.
Again.
David and Sissy, this is a fireside chat for both of y'all. You're both such wonderful people, and your beautiful daughter and son-in-law, well, he's not beautiful, are putting this together for you, and I just happened to wandered in first, so I'm the lead-off man, and just wanted to say that I think about y'all every day of my life, pray for you every day, and wanted to tell a quick story. My Aunt Joan, as you know, lived across the street. She adored both of y'all so much, and her best story about David was at 2 in the morning she got up because the Lane's dogs were barking so loud, and so what she did is she looked out the window, and there David was in his underwear pouring water all over the Lane's dogs so they'd shut up, and my aunt laughed so hard she couldn't go back to sleep. He's always loved you and asked about you. So here's wishing you a Merry Christmas. I hope you get some laughs out of these, because you sure have made us laugh all our life. Love you. Bye.
David, Merry Christmas, I love you. Now, this was my formative year, okay? When I was 9 years old, Darrow had a party, and all of you guys were there and acting really cool, and you know, I thought y'all were the coolest things there were, and Mom told me it was okay to go down in my cute little nightgown and tell everybody goodnight. So David, you were sitting right here. I'll never forget this. You're sitting right here, and you say, "Come here, Caroline." And so I came over there, and you said, come sit on my lap. And I thought, oh my God, this is the greatest thing there ever was. So I go and sit on your lap, David, and you put your arm around my shoulder and you whisper in my ear and you say, why don't you make like a drum? And I said, what does that mean? And you said, why don't you make like a drum and beat it? And I stuck my tail between my legs, went upstairs, and I'm not going to tell you I cried. But you taught me a lot that day, David. And what you also taught me is what total assholes boys are. Okay, it's your turn.
David, I'm sorry that she won't tell you exactly how she feels about that episode. David, Merry Christmas. There's certainly lots of stories I could tell on you, but there are two that really stick out to me. One was when we were at Carolina together, and I think we were like sophomores. And of course we knew everything. And one night we were out drinking, and the next thing I knew, by the way, it was in the middle of exams, the next thing I knew, you or somebody said, why don't we go to New Orleans? The next thing I knew, it was 3 o'clock in the morning, you were driving, we were in Atlanta, it was very obvious we weren't going to make it to New Orleans, so you said, let's go to Swanee. So we ended up going to Swanee. We had breakfast in Swanee, and you said, or somebody said,
Swanee.
Were you there? It was Swanee. And then somebody said, let's go to Athens. So we turned around, drove to Athens, and I know you're going to remember, we had a hell of a time in Athens that night. Spent the night, got back in Columbia for my 9 o'clock exam the next morning. Needless to say, I exempted the exam, and I'm sure I got an A in the course. The second thing I'd like to remind you of, and actually I really don't know the full story, but I've always wondered, you remember in 1969 when the ACC championship football team went to Atlanta and played in the Peach Bowl, and you were the original cocky, and nobody could find you? David, where did you go?
I'm going to let John go first and we're going to talk about Dave's story.
Well, we're going to need to team up on this because most of our stories go back with my drinking days, and my memory's not that good. But a lot of the stories that we have and good memories of David revolve around sailboat racing. And when David was part of our crew, we won over 62 races in the Beneteau 45. But one thing that really stands out is the ice truck story. We were sailing up in the Middle Beach area and then had a hotel in, I think it was Cherry Grove, I believe. And I decided to take a nap that afternoon, but David and Chuck and Harry decided they would try to go find some beer somewhere. So Chuck, you can tell them about that.
Well, as I recall, we needed a car and we didn't have a car. So some of the older guys went to bed and left us younger fellas up to go look for some beer. And we were walking down the boulevard and started hitchhiking. And an ice truck came along and picked us up. And the driver got out of the truck, opened up the back. David, Harry, and John and myself hopped in the back of the truck. The guy slammed the door shut. It was totally dark inside that truck. We were all sitting on ice bags, and I pulled out a cigarette lighter and found a thermometer inside the ice truck, and it happened to be 2 degrees inside that truck. Fortunately, the truck didn't have too far to go before the driver stopped and let us out of the bar. That's the end of that story.
And then there was a weekend we came back from a race down in Hilton Head, and Hugh Paul was with us on that race. And Hugh and David had been picking at each other all day. And needless to say, everybody had a few drinks. But that night, David was so afraid that Hugh was going to do something to him, he ended up sleeping in the bottom of the closet to keep Hugh from finding him. And of course, there was the time of the burning pants. We took a trip down to Edisto, a bunch of guys. I think it was in February.
In the month of February.
And it's freezing cold, and outboards. And I I think everybody got wet that time. Was it?
We were all drowned from traveling from the yacht club all the way down to Yellowstone Beach. And we finally got into the house, and there was heat on in the house and everything. David was totally soaked. The house was equipped with a nice dryer, but David decided to just take his pants off in the kitchen, cut on the oven, and threw his pants in the oven, and of course they caught on fire. We had a little bonfire right in the middle of the kitchen. David was stomping the fire out. I think David lost some money that day. But anyway, that was a great weekend. And we did that 2 or 3 times.
And then there was a time down in Hilton Head when we got thrown out of this place that we're not going to tell you where it was. And that was also the weekend where we were out of beer, and David went around looking for some beer. And what did he buy?
That's the value of Budweiser story. And we finished the race in the Cowboy Cup. And the boat was headed back to Charleston, and we discovered the boat had no beer. About that time, David saw a man walking across a field with a case of Budweiser. David stole a bicycle from somewhere and chased that guy down. David had exactly $50, made the deal, and we had beer all the way back to Charleston that Sunday.
Not only that, David didn't get any of it. He ended up sleeping all the way back to Charleston, and we were stuck out on deck, piloting the boat. And I believe the wind was on the nose that night. It was a bad night, rough night. Now, was that the same time that we left the eggs in the cab?
That's my story.
That's
no, we're not going to hang that one on David. I really don't recall that story, to tell you the truth. That story was told to me the next day. Apparently it had something to do with some eggs. I'm not real knowledgeable of what I was doing with eggs, but anyway, we leave that story alone.
Well, those are just a few of the stories. I mean, you can imagine, we had 60-some races, and actually more than that. And there's probably a story with every race. But I will say this: every time I hear the name of David Hewitt and think back of all the good memories, I smile. And I'm so grateful to be fortunate enough to have him as a friend.
You're here. He was a great sailing buddy. Oh, yeah?
First of all, David, I know you can't be here, and it's sad for us not to be able to be in touch this time of year, but first of all, we missed you terribly at St. Andrews Society, the first time you missed one, and I don't know when. But your brother and I and Freddie Wayman and everybody that was involved, including your son, we had a drink for you, maybe several. But I wanted to tell you that the guys at the health club, in lieu of being at St. Andrews, Joe Allen sends greetings. Joe Buckeaster sends greetings. Frankie Eaton sends greetings. Everybody at the health club sends greetings. I'd like to remind you of a few things that happened, and there's so many that I just had to pick a couple. One you told me I wasn't involved in, I think it'll bring a smile to your face, about the time, and many times before, that you've used a hip flute for a cooler. At the time, you were coming back from Louisiana, riding in the car, and I don't know who you were with, but at this particular time, you'd run out of beer in your cooler, and you were about to throw the rest of the water and ice out the window, and the wind caught it and nearly beat you to death with a strap on your hip flute. If you don't remember that, you have bruises still on your face from that, I believe. The other thing I'd like to remind you of is the time that you and I, my father, Batson, Jimmy Brazil, Freddie Wayman, I don't know, there's a lot of us, who went to Maryland to hunt geese. We were in Chestertown. You and I hunted with Batson, and I think my father was in the blind. Nobody claimed the geese, the first 5 that were shot, so you and I claimed them. And if you remember, we went to a little bar in Chestertown and shot pool with 2 hustlers that thought they were going to take advantage of 2 little Hick, South Carolina boys. Needless to say, they were up against David the Pool Shark Hewitt, who happened to clean the table for the first 5 games. At that point in time, we were playing for beer. And as I recall, there were 15 beers open on the counter when we decided that this wasn't a good thing for us to be doing. The boys that were trying to hustle us decided we weren't drinking beer, so they moved on to the bowling machine, of which you were better than pool. And so by the time we decided we better get out of there and leave well enough alone, there were 30 beers open on the counter. We hadn't drunk any, and those guys were still scratching their hands. Merry Christmas, David.
You know, I don't know really where to start, because this goes back so long, and I had a lot of things to think about. But I just wanted to say before the story that I hope, sis, that you and Dave have a very Merry Christmas. And enjoy your children and realize how much everybody enjoys y'all and loves you very much for what you've been to me through all these many years. I guess I had to think back, and the best one I can remember was Pitts was born there at St. Francis Hospital, and I'd gone over to visit with you, and I guess he wasn't even a day old. And Sissy, I spoke to you, and then I walked down the hall with David to look at Pitts through the glass there. And we got there, and we were both just kind of in awe. We looked at each other, and hell, you know, we were just kids too. And David, you looked up at me and said, "I hope he ain't quit." Merry Christmas, Lord love you.
I didn't know whether to start with the night on the bank or one of our many sailing experiences or many music experiences. I thought what I would do instead of that is talk about the future, because that's what I like, the future. And the first thing we need to do is plan a porch sitting with guitars and banjos, possibly at Rockville, maybe at Kensington, or possibly somewhere in Mount Pleasant in the very near future. And then we'll work into the yachting season and chart our courses in that regard. So in the meantime, bring on the bananas and the tangerines, because I says lift the quarantines. Merry Christmas, old boy.
Well, David, just want to reminisce about the old hunting trip we went to Maryland and the geese. And you were the only one that knew where we were going, and how you were hanging out the car at 70 miles an hour going to the bathroom and spitting tobacco all over the side of my white car. And we had to take a squeegee to the side. And of course, you were a little inebriated by the time we got there, and you were the only one that knew where we were going. And as you rolled out on the pavement, somehow we made it to Maryland. And just, you know, where we went, Chester, whatever. And but anyway, that's one of my most memorable hunting trips. And you know, just great to hear you doing well. And Merry Christmas.
Hey David, just want to say hello and let you know our friendship goes back to where I can remember growing up in the same neighborhood and doing all the bad things little boys did. Plenty of those. I'm not going to tell any stories because they come back to haunt you sometime. But it's always been a nice long friendship, and I've enjoyed it. I hope to have many more years.
Hey David, it's great to be here with all our friends. We just wish you were here, and we'll look forward to getting together with you when you're feeling better. And we're going to leave the rest of the conversation to John.
David, I got two stories to tell quickly. First of all, I'm sure you remember our night. I can't remember what birthday it was of mine, but when we were at Olivia's and James Brown came on and he was singing "Please, Please, Please," and immediately you and I both I think it kicked in immediately. You and I both started doing the dance from Ed Sullivan or whatever show that was, where he started going, "Please, please." And you were going down on the floor, and I had the blanket putting it on you, and you go, "Ah!" Throw it off, and you go, "Please, please." And we did it the entire song, and we got a couple pictures of that for you. just as a reminder that we'll have to get to you. But also, I wanted to tell you I have the original T-shirt from James Brown's wake at the Apollo Theater that I have to show to you. Next time I see you around the holidays, you'll have to see it. But we miss you and can't wait to see you again. Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
Have a Merry Christmas.
Hello, David. This is your part-time doctor. I hope you're doing well right now, but I wanted to remind you of something you did one night. You were over at St. Francis and you called me and you said that toe of yours was bothering you. And lo and behold, you came over there and the nurses said it looked so bad and big and poned up that they put you in a wheelchair and they put you in room number 6, and you stuck you in there for a while. About that time the EMS came in with a preacher from the AME church on Johns Island, and he was dead. And you didn't know that, but when the parishioners came in, people started falling out like flies in the hallway. And I don't know if you remember opening that door and looking out. I saw your facial expression, those eyebrows, and that smile of yours. And in the midst of all that turmoil, I laughed my head off. And you went back in the room, and the place was wailing, and everybody's running all over the place. The next thing I know, I hear this lady in the hallway say, "Oh, David, thank you." And you come out of the room, round the corner, somebody had recognized you, and you were helping her out down there in the hallway. And then you left. I never even got to treat you. And then you called back about an hour later and said you felt like your problem wasn't quite as big as their problem, and that you didn't need any treatment that night. And I said, well, we'll get you straightened anyway. And hopefully, I think I did get you straightened. But I'm wishing the best for you, and I want to wish you Merry Christmas, and I'll see you real soon.
All right, David, I got one more thing. I'm not really used to talking on camera, so I got kind of nervous there, but gotta remind you about when I first started sailing on wrinkles. I was about 15, 16, and you'd be sneaking me beers up there on the bow the entire race, but we'd get the boat all de-rigged, and you'd give me a ride home. We'd ride around the battery 3 or 4 times, and you'd have a cooler in the back and reach back and start handing me beers, and we'd drink beers all the way around the battery. Then we'd stop by the Sergeant Jasper for you to buy me a pack of gum before you dropped me off with my parents. And I'm just thinking about that, wanted to remind you. Merry Christmas.
Freddie, your hunting partner, and all of the sorts of partners we've had over the years. My story about this situation with hunting and a family situation with David was related to one year in Canada. David and I and 4 other guys went on a hunting trip. And on the hunting trip, we were gone 4, 5, 6 days, and of course he was away from his bride. And also on the hunting trip, he definitely wanted to take some brewskis with him. We're getting ready to board the float plane and fly into the bush, and David had a case of Pabst Blue Ribbon he wanted to take on the float plane. Of course, there were 500s and rifle guns and this case of beer. We got up to the float plane, and the old rusty old captain of the pilot of the float plane said, "The beer can't go on board." And so David said, "Well, we're going to figure out a way," to all the other guys, and we all regrouped back up at the head of the pier. To make a long story short, the Pabst Blue Ribbon went on board in the gun cases and in all the other hunters' coats. So we smuggled the case of Pabst Blue Ribbon on board the float plane, took it into the camp in Canada, and had a blast. Of course, David, he doled out the beer very carefully. 1 per hunter per day was all he would allow us. But we had a good time with the Pabst Blue Ribbon. On the way back, we pulled into Timmins, Ontario, Canada, and we're going to make home phone calls. So we called our wives, and then David was at the booth, and David, he stood at the booth, and we all around him, and he called Sissy. And after some small talk, and he got down to the real serious business to show you what a family man, how much he missed Sissy and the love he had for her. He said, "Sissy, I'm coming home tonight, and I want everything off but the air conditioner." And with that, we all had another beer. So Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, and we love you.
The name of this story is Revenge is a Dish That's Best Served Cold. And this is the story of Jay and Sissy in the swimming pool. And we flash back initially to
about 1963 at the old Charleston Inn on Lockwood Drive, when yours truly is unsuspectingly shoved into the swimming pool. Now flash forward to 1978, some young adults having a little party at Jack and Sue Paul's house. And along comes Miss Sissy Hewitt at this time, and kersplash, right in the pool. 15 years later, Sissy, I never forget. And we'll never forget you guys. We love you, and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Dave, what a pleasure to be here tonight. My story is a little bit different because I didn't get a chance to know you until we were, late teens. And you had history with all these people here, which is wonderful. But I've got two quick stories, which were terrific. When we first met, I'd heard all about your athleticism and what a great person you were at SMA, and you gave me a lot of trash about Christ School. And as the years progressed, I didn't see the athleticism, although I'd heard that you were the Carolina Gamecock. Now, what brought all this home was we went to Fripp Island in 1973. You and Sissy, of course, were married. There were about 15 couples. It was a big graduation party for us. We all took dates down. Some people were married. We had coats and ties. We played a little OIO golf on the beach. But the thing that brought home your true ability was that Saturday night, the Fripp Island had the big seafood buffet. We all dressed to the hilt. We'd been imbibing all afternoon. And as we walked in, and you may remember, everybody had the big fat ties back in those days and the plaid and paisley sport coats. As we walked into the dining room, there must have been 50 families there for the 4th of July week. And as we walked through, and I don't know how it happened, all of a sudden, you stopped and did a backflip in the middle of these 50 families. And the entire group absolutely went hush. Of course, we were loud because we'd had too many beers all afternoon. And I remember this one little girl looking up at her daddy and said, "Daddy, that man did a backflip." And he started to argue with her. And I looked at him and I said, "Pardon me, this man is the Carolina Gamecock." And we went and sat down and ate dinner. It was a wonderful evening. The other story, which is magnificent, is, as you remember, we were neighbors for 9 years on Limehouse Street. I got a chance to see Angie and Costa grow up together, dating, and we had a wonderful time with you and Sissy. Lived through Hugo together. You remember taking the squeegee and pushing mud out your front door and taking hoses and getting all the trees and debris out. Anyway, I'll never forget what you did to me. As you may recall, there were barking dogs all over the neighborhood. And the Haygoods had this boykin that barked all night long. And I was going berserk. So I woke up and remembered a story you told me about taking ice cold water and throwing it on a dog, and that would completely hush them. So at 3 in the morning, in my skivvies, I fill a 5-gallon bucket with ice and water, run across the street like a commando. That dog is barking up a storm, throw it on him, and he absolutely falls to the ground, doesn't bark again for a month, which I thought was wonderful. Unfortunately, my wife at the time told her sister, Gigi Wallace, who was dear friends with Elizabeth Haygood. And at a cocktail party a month later, Gigi tells Elizabeth, and Elizabeth and Maypac looked at me and couldn't even talk and turned around and walked away. We have since reunited, but that was another time that you got me into trouble. But you know, I could sit here all night and tell 30 stories. It's been wonderful. I cannot get teary talking. Anybody else get teary? Love you, buddy.
thank you for all the memories.
What do you say, D? C here. Fireside chat with no fire. I was asked to come in and tell some stories that I remember about you over the years, and I think in my case, D, instead of going into the stories, what I remember most about you and will continue to remember about you and continue to enjoy about you is your facial expressions in the moment. That's what sticks with me. And I decided that Louisiana, New Orleans, would be the best place for me to bring up a few of these expressions and the circumstances under which they occurred. I only wish Tom Hess and Ken Guidry could be here with me, and a host of others. But they told me that I was limited to time, and so I figured this would be the best way to do it. And so when I was thinking about you and our trips to Louisiana, let me see here. I jotted down 4 words that are the root word of some of the episodes I'm talking about. The first word would be banana. The second word is eggnog. The third word is piano. And the fourth word is Winnebago. Now, there's a lot more, but I swear to God, maybe not necessarily in that order. The eggnog, you'll recall, we were flying out of Charlotte, headed to New Orleans, and you and I were assigned seats next to each other, but there was an empty seat in between us. And we were sitting there waiting on the plane to load, and here comes this little girl, rather homely looking little girl, down the aisle with this big brown package in her arms, and her seat assignment was right between you and I. And of course, we were in good form, and she sat down in between us, and I remember the look on your face and the look in your eyes when you were investigating the package in her lap, and so you broke the ice, and I think she was from somewhere up north, and she was flying down to a nursing school in New Orleans, which just happens to be where we were headed. You were curious about what was in that brown package, and she was reluctant to let us know what was in the brown package. But as you remember, your I know you don't remember your facial expressions, but when you were questioning her, you were so good, and you finally convinced her to let us know what was in the brown package. And as you'll recall, it was her father's famous eggnog, all wrapped up in an ice bag inside that brown package that she was taking back to her buddies at nursing school in New Orleans. Well, the package didn't make it to New Orleans. You got your cup and I got my cup and she got her cup, and 2 hours later she goes from being a coy, little bashful, little homely looking female to cussing like a sailor, and you remember you and I got ran out of the nursing school when we were taking her in with her luggage. We ended up giving her a ride back to school and taking her in, and we got run out of school. But your facial expressions when you were dealing with her, to me, was priceless. And then there was the occasion, D, you remember, I won't divulge any names, but one of our traveling partners got separated from the pack one night in New Orleans, and we were all of the opinion that he had been put in jail and that we would pick him up the next morning out of jail. But as it turns out, you'll recall that morning at the Lake Charles Hotel when we got the key from the desk clerk and got into his room, and you'll recall the scene that morning in his room. And this is another one of your facial expressions when you went around to the opposite side of the bed and you picked up that dead banana
and you had that look only you could do, and said something to the effect of, "This is an interesting piece of evidence as to what our friend had been doing the night before." So I can't divulge his name, but the look on your face that morning when you picked up that banana was priceless. And then in the bar that night, we were sitting in the bar that night, me and you, and I can't remember who was with us, and we were in this little cramped corner, and your back was to a little small stage over your left shoulder, and there was a piano up on that small stage. That small stage was about 5 feet high, and there was a piano up on that small stage, just big enough for that piano, as a matter of fact. And you decided that you wanted to play a few chords on the piano, and you got out of the booth and got up there and got on the stool behind the piano. And about that time, a hand about the size of my hat comes right by my eyes. A big black hand, I might, if you recall, comes right by my eyes, and he was standing flat-footed on the floor, looking at you eye to eye, sitting at the piano, 5 feet up off the floor. So he was a large guy, and he said something about, "I suppose you think you gonna play that piano?" And the look on your face when he said that was just, I mean, I wish I could emulate it, but I can't. But that was a great evening, and there's so many more evenings in New Orleans and places around Louisiana that I could rehearse, and God, I wish we could go back. And then the final one, because I'm limited for time, was when another unmentioned traveler with us that time, the year we drove to Winnebago. When he became upset because you and whoever had stopped at a rest area on I-10, and I was asleep in the back of the Winnebago, and when I woke up and got to the front of the Winnebago, he was doing 60 miles an hour headed straight at you and whoever it was on the side of the highway. And the look on your face that day and the way you were moving out of the way was just priceless, David. And God knows, I hope that one day we can get back to Louisiana just for one night, if no more, and get with Guidry and get with Hess and those boys. But you know, we got memories all over the place, but you know as well as I do that those years in Louisiana were special. Merry Christmas.
Maggie, I'm going to open up with Merry Christmas, and I'm going to close with Merry Christmas. And I think this is the neatest thing in the world, having Angie do this for us. Can't believe Tommy McGee was here tonight, because he probably ruined the whole damn Christmas party. But anyway, I started last night kind of composing some of the things we've done together over the years with all of our good friends and whatnot. And I got to page 4, and I think I was in 1975 and was talking about the skid mark. And here we got another 30 years to cover. And Kathy told me, she said, night Preston, and that's the good doctor going home. Kathy said, Jimbo, you ain't got but about 5 minutes to talk to David to wish him a Merry Christmas. So I'm going to try to just summarize some of this thing, and I'm sure memories will be there with you. But I don't know if you remember, the first time I met you was on Broad Street. We were in the first grade together at Ms. Watts. And we all had kind of an army book bag, and you and Parker Days had these silly things bought from some exotic place, much finer than the rest of us guys. And we were in line, I tapped you on the shoulder, I said, Parker, how you doing? You turned around, I thought you were going to hit me. You know, you're a scrappy little fella. And but it was you, and from there we forged a friendship that has lasted since, 1956? I can't do the math, I guess it's about 52 years. And by God, we've had a lot of fun. And I'm just going to look down at my notes just a little bit. But I got to tell you, back when we were teenagers, we were all together. Of course, you were dating the big blonde track star at East Bay Playground by the name of Sissy and Hope, and we were all very jealous because the only girls we could date were girls a year younger than us, and you were dating a girl a year older than us, so you were sort of, you know, the man. I remember the teenage years, football on South Battery and egging the buses and egging anybody that stood by the bus stop. And of course, poor Alan Moore, we'd egg him every time he came by in a bicycle. Nights at the seaside and old side, Moultrie high school guys trying to beat us up. Those were kind of fun. Big John's. You remember Montague when we'd give him a dime? He said, "Cut me in." A lot of fun there. I'm talking fast, buddy, because I don't have that much time. Bonfires at the Isle of Palms. Your speakers 4x6 used to sit in the back of your car among the beer cans. And I can remember, I think it was a Mercury Comet, a green Mercury Comet. There were 3 on the column, and you had to learn how to drive that damn thing with your right foot because you had a beer, a cigarette, and the other 2 hands. I don't know where the wheel was, but I remember you shifting that thing because you had all this paraphernalia in your hand. Off to USC, you were a maintenance guy at some hotel. They had to tear that down because you didn't do a very good job with that thing. After graduation, Kat and I moved to Columbia, and by God, I think it was something Terrace. We had those good times there, baked beer keg every Friday and Saturday night. And it was Have Angie Will Travel. And by God, we had some wonderful times there. We all moved back to Charleston. Matter of fact, I think that's where you got to be such a real estate magnet. That's where you learned your trade in Columbia when we were about 24 years old. Then we all moved back to Charleston and beer and guitars every Saturday night at somebody's house. God almighty, it was a wonderful time. Like I say, I sort of quit this at the skid mark. I think you and Jim Boswell owned that thing together. And then we used to go to Ocean Isle. One funny story, if you remember, when we were at Ocean Isle, was you and Barbara Stelling, now Barbara somebody else, were in that Buick. And y'all want to see how far that car could skid after you get it up to 40 miles an hour. Well, y'all did that about 5 times. And all of a sudden the blue light comes. Of course, we were all spectators on the porch. We jumped off the damn porch like a bunch of rats on a sinking ship. And the quote that I remember when he asked you if you'd been drinking, you said 1, 2, maybe 6. So that was a quote that I remember. But then Calabash, we went to Calabash and you cut one of your famous backflips, and I remember the busboy says, "Oh my God, that man is an acrobat." And I think that kind of acrobat died there on Market Street. I don't remember the name of the place when you didn't quite make the full turn there, and had a little bleeding episode with the lip. But the thing that I remember most about us is I guess the Nagwood Stack. Back, I think you were the youngest Commodore that was ever elected, deservedly so. And I think you were part of your legacy was to get your buddies through the chair as Commodore of the Carolina Yacht Club. I'm going to get a little serious now for you. And I don't remember what the exact lineage was, but we identified about 5 folks that came right on through, following through the Nagwood Stack. And I remember being on Bulls Bay fishing with Bill Scarborough, fishing for bass, and he said, "You know, I've been talking to David, and he wants to put a stack together." And by God, we did it. I think it was in the 80s and early 90s by the time we got everybody through. Of course, we had to get a yard in there to throw the whole damn crowd off because they didn't want to see 5 good friends get through there. But I believe that's where you got the nickname Runt from Palmer Yard. I ain't figured out quite why he calls you that. But in preparation for that, buddy, I got a little photograph. I don't know whether it can be seen by that, but that's just 4 members of the stack. We got you here, and then we got Scarborough, Cathcart, and myself. And of course you saw this the other day when you went bald. I brought it to you, but I thought you'd like to see it one last time because this is what you're known for, buddy. The Nagwood Stack and the Commodores. And I want to wish you a Merry Christmas, and I'm going to tell you something. I love you. I've loved you for 50-something years, and I'm damn proud of you. And you make me want to cry with your strength and your it's just your courage, buddy. And Merry Christmas to you, and I love you.
David, this is so wonderful to be able to talk to you and not you have to answer back. I think it's an extremely unique situation for all of your friends to do this. You know, you and I we've been friendly, but not nearly as cozy since both of us are carrying the same stupid stuff that we have to deal with. I know you're doing well. I'm going to tell you, you're going to do so much better every day. It's just really, really slow. And I don't know what else we can do for you except let you lean on our shoulder, but not too hard. You might break my back. I've got the pink cat with me tonight, just in case you get the wrong kind of steroids. This will look cute on you. Trust me, it will look cute on you. And if that's not enough, this is even better. If you want to get out without the doctor seeing you. One more thing, the scarves are wonderful. When your head gets too sore from carrying all the hats, I wore this a lot. You're welcome to my scarf collection. I know you'll wear them like nobody else could.
And one thing, Sissy, is as being the caretaker for him, make sure he drinks a lot of water. How about four times water to 1 time beer? That'll help a whole lot. It helped Judy a lot. Merry Christmas to you. And Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas. Hope to see you.
I'm ready. Dave and Sissy, I'm here just so happy to wish you a happy and Merry Christmas. First of all, David, I asked her, Angie, how old you were. And she said you were 57. I know you're lying. I know you're older than that. Because I know I'm not 7 years older than you, but we'll let that go. I want to talk for a moment about, not about Burtonmore and the times that you had the ghosts going from one side of Limehouse Street to the other. Not about the times that when the bear truck was backed up in your driveway so you could reach out the window and pull the draft bear. Not about the time that Sissy said, David, the sofa's on fire, and you said, I'll take care of it, and poured the bear on the sofa to put it out. I'm not going to talk about those times. But what I want Sissy to know is this. The very first recollection I have of David Hewitt is that I was probably 15 or 16, and David was half old, I know young. And he was playing in a football game down at Hazel Parker Playground. And he would score a touchdown, or he'd catch a pass, or he would tackle someone, whatever the occasion was. Then he would reach down in his sock, and he would look at something. And after the game, I didn't know who he was. And I said, what were you doing? And he said, I just wanted to say hello to my girlfriend. And he had a picture of Sissy. And I will never forget that. And that's what I love about the David and Sissy Hewitts, is they've been so strong together, and the love that they've had for one another. All of us know that. So I am so delighted to be part of this, and just to wish you the merriest of Christmases that you've ever had. The heart that you have, the love that y'all have had for one another has never waned, and we all know that, and we love you for it. Merry Christmas.
Hey David and Sissy, I've had the best time tonight hearing all these hysterical stories about y'all's childhood growing up. So many great stories and great memories, and I have many, many, many great memories myself. But really what I want to say is Merry Christmas, and I wish you a healthy and happy New Year. Take care. Thank you.
Good morning, David. I was hoping to come over and visit you, but I hear that you are necessarily being held away from the mob because we have all types of bad infections that we would pass on. But we're all thinking about you, and hope that we will be able to get together soon. We still have that island trip with Burton E. I know that will be a trial. But I just want you to know that I have a few incentives for your continued good health, and they happen to be under the tree over here. We have one right here that's waiting on you. And there's also something over here that has your name on it. Your favorite, all waiting on you for whenever you get back up and on your feet. Everybody talks about you and hope to have you back in our midst soon. Everybody's still talking about it being a special cruise for your presence there. But anyway, you take care of yourself. Keep doing what the doctors say, even though I know that's a struggle. And you have a wonderful holiday season with your family, and Merry Christmas to you.
Go.
All right, David, welcome to the Wrinkles Fireside Christmas Chat. We are all here today to wish you a very Merry Christmas, you and Miss Sissy. Angie asked us about doing some funny things, and on the way to San Diego, I came up with this list. It looks small, but I write small. And some of these we can't talk about, but I was just going to throw out all these different things that you've done over the years with some of us. The do you remembers. Do you remember a last minute going to Hilton Head with Harry? Do you remember some of the Pigpen days, Wrightsville Beach? A Steve Sherry steamer? Frank Parkin's Lily Whites? Or the Abacos? Some of those things we can't talk about either. As I looked through this list, there was a whole lot of things I couldn't talk about, so I'm not going to talk about any of them yet. The rest of the group's going, and then we'll get back to you.
I think we need to start this off, David, with a famous expression from one David P. Hewitt. What's wrong with this picture? We got both, we got friends.
And no beer.
And no beer.
Poor planning.
Poor planning on our host's part.
It's been one of those weeks.
Well, David is well known for his sayings, and one that came up that I always think about and came up from his years spent on the foredeck of the Wrinkles and scratching his head after one day when we'd been out there longer than we needed to be and all beat up. And we come in and David is philosophizing. He says, you know the difference between a professional and a wanker on the foredeck? No. He said, 5 knots of breeze.
Exactly
I think about that a lot.
Mm-hmm. And so true.
But David, we miss you and we need you back because we are without our spiritual advisor in matters of the wardrobe and personal hygiene on the Wrinkles. And I'm just here to say you are missed.
Dumpster diving in Key West. Remember them tennis shoes, David?
Yeah.
It's a good thing you dove for those tennis shoes before I got to that dumpster. You know what I'm talking about.
But he did the right thing. He had the tennis shoes and a gallon of Clorox so he could wash the tennis shoes. And oh Lord, I tell you, I don't know what stories there's so many of David, but you know, they're all great, helpful to all of his friends and everything. I'll just tell you a non-sailing story I told these guys. They loved it. But how he helped my mother. When she came when David lived down there at 52 and we were at 62, my mother comes into her laundry room and sees 2 mice in the sink. And she didn't know what to do. It's 8:30 in the morning, so she called David. David comes down, picks the mice up, goes outside and said, well, Miss Scar, what do you want me to do? Just get rid of them, David, just get rid of them. You got to help me. And she's all screaming, you got to get rid of the mice. Dave said, well, which yard do you want me to throw them in? And he goes, I don't care. He says, well, who do you not like? And she says, so David just threw both mice in both yards and walked off. Oh, Lord. Anyway, David, have a good holiday.
Like Fricky, I thought of a couple of stories, and the more I thought about them, I'm not sure I could tell them. There was David's little lay-day experience in Key West, and then there's a little gambling excursion with Ken King in Antigua, but he knows what we're talking about. But one story we wanted to, or a little saying we wanted to do is what he's taught my son. Ready? Yes. Shoot up, jib down, beer out. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, David. They have invited me to come back for a special occasion with the Wrinkles crew since I jumped ship. But I too would like to thank you for the fine influence you've been on my son. After sending him to boater training school and then taking him to crew on the Wrinkles, and he'd learned how you don't mix boating and alcohol, and you sent him down below for a beer, and he says, but the book says you're not supposed to boat and drink. And you politely told him, son, the book is wrong. After 4 hard years, I've managed to correct that.
And a lot of money. And a lot of money.
Send it back.
But thanks for that training. But and unfortunately, your grandson's here, and we can't talk about Key West much, like the matinee or anything. So, but hopefully you'll have a wonderful Christmas, and we need you back out on the boat, on the water, because the stories are getting old, like the people who the stories are about, and we need you to create a few new ones for us.
And Miles is right about creating a few new ones, but I'm going to give you a list of do you remember? And then if you wish to share some of those stories with your family, you may. Do you remember a case of beer and a $50 bill from Hilton Head? I already mentioned your dumpster diving. How about cooking quail at Key West in the parking lot by the dumpster? David, you must have something about dumpsters that we don't know about. Or when we were in Hilton Head many times, in the time that you and Harry decided at the last minute to go with Miles on the pig pen, and Sissy was not very happy. Neither was Harry's wife, Mary Beth, was not either. And also about, and Jerby lied to you as well. You never got over Jerby lying to you. Or let's see what else I had on here. You looked at me one time on an ocean race and said, I'm not having a good time. What are you going to do about it?
In the ocean?
In the ocean. I was at a loss for words, David. Maybe it was the same day as the wanker came out. But you remember the guardhouse wreck at Key West? Not that you were involved. The Green Parrot. How about St. Pete, the piano player? And you sang. And the Abacos, Dr. John and crew, or Don and crew. We also judged a diving contest. That was pretty interesting. Some young ladies were taking practicing the diving lessons. And your good friends down there, Brendel, Kevin, and Johnny Cool.
In the pool, when he was in the pool.
And you in the pool. So that's just a few, David, of Do You Remembers, but as I said, we miss having you on the boat. We know you'll be back soon. And Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. And don't worry, we'll have some cold beer for you on Christmas.
David, hello, Merry Christmas. This is postscript to the first tape. I've always been kind of a postscript person. But anyway, this is my first memory of meeting you, which was down here at the marina. It was about on this side. There was a boat. The boat was anchored over on this side. And you were on the boat working with the lines, Bill Cathcart, Randall, and Harry. First time I ever met you. And the children were little because I remember holding Harry in my arms. And anyway, Harry introduced me to you, and you said, hello, how are you? And we, had pleasantries. Then all of a sudden, out of the clear blue, you reached in your pocket and took out a wad of bread and started eating it. And I just thought that was a little strange, but, Harry had strange friends. But when Harry came up close to me, I said, Harry, what's with the bread? And he said, oh, that's nothing. He's going to start drinking beer soon. And so he eats his bread to absorb the beer. That's my first memory of you, and I've had many fun times with you and Sissy. But anyway, for the next racing season, here's a loaf of bread. I'm going to freeze it, and I'm going to bring it down to the marina when you get on the boat in the next regatta. Merry Christmas. All right, this is postscript number 2. Glad tidings from my daughter Elizabeth and from Newport News, Virginia. It says, what can I say about David Hewitt? For starters, he is one of the funniest people that I have ever known. He can tell a joke like no one else. As if just hearing the joke wasn't enough, his facial expressions and logic-defying eyebrows only add to the experience. The devilish gleam in his eyes as he nears the punchline only makes you want to hear the joke again and again. All right, here we go. My most favorite memory of David when I was about 12 years old, or a 12-year-old camper, along with my brother at the James Island Yacht Club summer sailing camp. My parents were chaperoning that night.
which could have been the kiss of death to any teenager, but they had arranged a little entertainment for the campers. Page 2. The entertainment turned out to be David, Randall, and Tom Porter. They had their guitars in hand and proceeded to play some music to us rowdy kids. I don't recall the songs that they sang that night, although my guess is a little bit of Elvis and some Embers. David had a cigarette firmly planted in an ear as he sang and grooved to the music. How cool is that? The campers loved it and talked about it all night because we always stayed up all night at sailing camp. For the rest of the week, Harry and I were the coolest campers because we were friends with the crazy, fun guys who had played music that night at camp. Merry Christmas, David and Sissy, with much love to you both, and I hope to see you soon, Elizabeth. Love.
Hey Nagy, listen, I just wanted to take a little time to talk to you and send you a little Christmas message. I know a lot of people have done it, and I've been thinking about you, and of course you've been through a lot lately, and makes me think back to all the times we had growing up. Golly, you taught me how to smoke cigarettes in Alan Moore's house when they were building it. I know you remember that. All the good times we had on the bus down there on the corner of South Battery and Linwood, and throwing the water balloons at it, and eggs and the trash cans. All those times on the wall. Remember Henry Gowd's swing and all the fun times we had going up to the tops of all the roofs and just having a great time. Growing up in Charleston was a lot of fun, and you were a special part of that. You were I guess I'd have to say you and John G were probably my first two friends, and it's kind of nice to know that we're all still around and enjoying each other's company. So anyway, this one is for you. You get that, Dave? That one's for you. And you have a good one, and Merry Christmas to you and Sissy.
Yes, go ahead. Hey, David. It's your friend from Earhart, South Carolina. Just wanted you to know I've been thinking about you a whole lot, and I'm so sorry you've been sick, but I'm positive things are going in the right direction, and I hope you get a good report in March on the bone marrow transplant. Anyway, still dating the guy from Charleston, having a great time. Hope to see you soon, and I hope you have a very Merry Christmas.
To David and Sissy. Well, most of the story is only about David. Go.
You're on.
David, Sissy, how y'all doing? I'm Teddy Albanesius, as you well know, and we're over here at the beach house on Sullivan's Island. We've enjoyed it immensely the last 3 years. And David, I'd like you to remember some of the things about Big John's. You remember Big John, about 6'9" or whatever, the football player, you know, for the New York football team. And we used to get our 25-cent beers there, and as well as we used to have our favorite server, Montague. You remember him? He used to get the Happy Christmas and Merry Easter mixed up. And then we did a lot of bowling on that bowling machine, but you always won. I think you let me win, but and I appreciate that. So wishing you a lot of luck and a Merry Christmas.
Slim Lord, I understand all your friends are kind of gathering up to tell a few tales on you, and probably some of them want to maybe embarrass you with a nasty tale or something like that. But I want to tell one about the practical side of David P. Hewitt. You remember the first time we went down to Key West, and we loaded up the car. Everybody was all excited. We put everything in the car, made the cooler, made sure that the cooler was nice and handy so we could get to it, and we took off down the road. Talking about driving all night, talking about not being able to stop every 5 miles down the road, trying to make good time. And so with that in mind, we about down to Point South, we pull over and we want to check the bearings, get gas before we hit the interstate and head on down the long road all night long. So as everybody goes into the little store there and comes back out, I'm going in to pay for the gas. I look up and here you come, a gallon jug full of windshield washing solvent. I said, boy, David's taking this thing to heart. He's worried about the windshield getting bugs on him and not being able to see, and he's thinking ahead. I go in, pay for the gas, come back out. There you are, in the ditch, pouring out all the windshield wash and solvent. Is empty. I said, ooh, something's wrong here. And then, as we all get back in the car, and you reach for the cooler, you hold up the jug and say, yep, no pit stops for David P. Hewitt, and on down the road we go. That's the practical side of David P. Hewitt. So, just remember the ultimate goal, we're glad you're feeling better, the ultimate goal is to get you back on the Bower Wrinkles, and so we can practice some more. Shoot up, Bud Light, Bud Light, Bud Light, shoot down, and get you on back down the road. So Terry and I wish you a very Merry Christmas and hope you all have a very, very happy New Year. We are still plans still on for January in Abaco, so make sure you are able to join the crowd, and we look forward to making those plans. Have a Merry Christmas.
Hi Dad, we're at your home away from home, Carolina Yacht Club. Right close to where Angie broke her arm on that anchor. And I just wanted to rehash some of the good memories I have of us here. And first off was the infamous fishing trip with Batson and Coleman and the Del Portos, where we fished out of our little whaler, and that king mackerel came up about 10 feet off the back of the boat and just tried to bite at our baits. I think we missed that one, but that was just very visual. And not too long after that, there was a big submarine that came through with some huge waves that terrified us as kids. And then a couple of years later, I guess when I was 12, you just said, here are the keys to the boat, go fuel up at the Tuller's Cove Marina. And I thought that was the best ever. And just wanted to, I guess, end it by just saying that I really, really appreciate all the good, the life advice and the business advice you've ever given me. I've always taken it to heart. And love you, Dad. Merry Christmas.
Hey, David. Merry Christmas. Here we are out front of 22 Limehouse Street. And basically, I turned about 37 a month ago, which is about how old you were when I started coming over here dating Angie. And you know, y'all moved out of this place the day after our wedding, and the wedding was great and all, but I didn't mean to send you packing your bags. But anyway, a lot of good memories here. And had a lot of fun travels over all these years, you know, the last 20 years, Alaska, Ireland, the BVI, Disney Cruise, Disney, Arkansas, you took us up there, Mississippi, all those fun times. And you know, all my friends always say I've got the greatest father-in-law, and my constant reply is, I know I do. So.
Hey Papa, you probably don't remember this, but this is the first place we met. I was probably 15, and I was riding pits from my house on the handlebars of my bicycle, and you were meeting him here, and you were in your Ford Explorer, and you had your big black rimmed glasses. And isn't it funny that you were my future father-in-law? But thank you for being such a great father-in-law, and thank you for being such a great papa to Ella. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Papa! Bye!
Have a wave.
Dad, now you've had a glimpse into some of the lives that you have touched just by being you. You truly inspire people by the way you live. You know how to live life, and it shows. Now, you've always prioritized people first, and all these people really appreciate you. You are the best dad, husband, father, papa, friend that anyone could ever hope for. We love you.